live look from the Anna Spanish Head Resort Hotel in Lincoln City. Welcome back to Afternoon Live. Candy canes, fudge, and frosting-filled Christmas cookies. The holidays bring lots of treats, but that also means a lot of sugar. A dangerous amount of sugar, according to our next guest. We welcome the author of Brave Parent, Raising Healthy, Happy Kids Against All Odds in Today's World. Dr. Susan Maples is joining us today. Dr. Susan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kara. It's nice to be here.
Okay, so this is a dangerous amount of sugar. What is the amount of sugar that is too much for kids?
Oh, wow, good question. We are now consuming 22 to 40 teaspoons of sugar per day per person in the U.S. And the World Health Organization years ago issued a warning along with the American Heart Association that we ought to reduce our sugar consumption to 5% of our caloric intake. 5%. That represents a 75% reduction in what we're eating. For an adult, that would be 100 grams a day, or literally 2/3 of a can of cola for the whole day, not even considering what's in the ketchup and the bun and the curly fries and the sugar cereals and the juices and all of that. So it's a drastic reduction.
Do you need to worry about the natural sugars that you find in fruit and other foods?
Really good question. Natural sugars are part of the fruit. It contains its own antidote, which is fiber. The fiber creates a glue-like mass that contains the sugar and lets it sort of eke out into the body slowly rather than hitting you all at once. That allows the pancreas to keep up by producing insulin as it's supposed to. It's these heavy hits of sugar all day and white flour, by the way, that really stress the pancreas and eventually burn it out. We get on this progression from what we call normal healthy metabolism to insulin resistance, prediabetes, and then diabetes.
And so as far as sugars go, there's also seems to be so many different types of sugar. So,
yes.
I mean, you see the sugar, you see brown sugar, then you see all the artificial sugars, many that claim that they're great as well. Are they?
They're all sugar. Interestingly, the high fructose corn syrup has 2 molecules of fructose instead of 1, and that doubling up of that fructose has really bombarded the liver. That's where we process it. So 24% of kids today have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, having never tasted a drop of alcohol. That's a problem, especially because pediatricians aren't testing ALT levels for kids. And so a lot of times these kids get really sick before they're diagnosed. That's another disease other than, the diabetes progression, but it's a real issue.
And you speak about diabetes, you've said that more than 8 million people are walking around with diabetes and don't even know it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, actually, one in 10 have diabetes, and by 2050, it will be 1 in 3. So I look back on 2012, the year my own son graduated high school. There were 16 million diabetics in our country, and now today there are 37 million. That's how fast it's growing, and it should be absolutely alarming. It isn't that hard. I shouldn't say that. To avoid it, you would have to just avoid ultra-processed food. That's very hard in our culture, and get more movement. At least 30 minutes of movement a day, 10 minutes, 3 times a day of moving and churning up our blood sugar, because churning up the sugar in our blood and using it for energy.
Mm-hmm. But diabetes can also be genetic, right?
Yes, that's type 1 diabetes. That's really not what we're talking about. The genetic proponent of it, that's an autoimmune issue, but that's very small compared to this type 2 diabetes, which is considered lifestyle related.
So what would you say parents should absolutely cut out for kids? What are like the 3 worst foods a kid could be having?
Liquid sugar, and liquid sugar. Okay. 50% of what we're consuming is in juice and sports drinks, Gatorade, and all Powerade, all of the sports drinks, energy drinks. That's the big deal. And the other thing I would say is yogurts that are. There's as much sugar in some yogurts as there is in a Coca-Cola, or in a soda. And then we need to also be looking at breakfast cereals. Breakfast cereals are loaded. Again, if you're eating commercial cereals and you're really feeling hooked on these commercial cereals, get the unsweetened version, put the sugar bowl back on the table. There's no possible way they could put as much sugar on the cereal as we're impregnating in the cereal that's going down the hatch. So those are probably low-hanging fruit right there.
Dr. Susan, I just got the wrap, but I want to ask, diet sodas, those, sport drinks, zero drinks, those bad for you?
They are, and it's not because the non-nutritive sweeteners, I'm going to tell you, they're cancerous. Most of us know that those aren't great in large quantities, but aspartame, for instance, has been on the market for a long time without a lot of negative health ramifications, except that in the brain and in the liver, it causes the same insulin resistance. It somehow tricks our brain into thinking that we're having something sweet. It also trains the brain that whenever we want something, that it trains the brain to want sugar, and we know sugar is addictive. So the sweet taste somehow gets confusing and we're not able to, I mean, it is sugar. It's just so sweet that we need very little of it to make it sweet, and therefore it doesn't count as calories. But it's still creating some of that same brain chemistry that causes the insulin resistance and the march toward diabetes.
Oh, thank you so much for all this info.
You are welcome. Thank you for honoring Diabetes Month.
Yes, and we'll have more information about Dr. Maples on our website. There's her book right there, Brave Parent. It'll all be on KATU.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.